platforms. Alright, so we will do that in the check platforms method. Okay, so we need to go through all of the coordinates and check if we have consecutive rows of unoccupied space. 3 rows, at least 3 rows. 2 rows is okay, but 3 rows will present a scenario where you won't be able to jump on top of the platforms. Alright, so over here we will check if there are at least 3 consecutive rows with unoccupied, 3 consecutive unoccupied rows if found, create a platform in those rows. Okay, so we will put a separator here so that it's easier to differentiate between the different checking. Okay, which means that we will need to have empty row equals to 0. Alright, so reset coordinates x, y, check platforms, if this coordinate is equals to 0, which means that it is not occupied. Okay, we have a boolean here. If this row occupied equals to false. Okay, if this row occupied equals to true. So if we found a platform here, we will say that it's true. Or rather, we'll search for empty platforms. Okay, actually we do not need this. Okay, but we need let's see, column checks equals to 0. Okay, so we'll check all the columns. Okay, so at the end of this row, if plus 1. Okay, so that means if it's same as this, we'll say that, okay, that means we found an empty row. Okay, empty column at empty column at okay, plus y plus bracket. Okay, okay, usually there will only be one, okay, one gap, or rather one situation in a stage. So there will be, because due to the number of platforms, if it happens there will only be one gap, there won't be two or more. So there's no point if greater than equals to 3 to carry on the loop if we found 3. So consecutive empty rows found consecutive empty rows. Okay, let's remove the other debug messages so that we can okay, so it's not here. Let's see what other debug messages are there. Okay, let's go back to our platform manager, checking OBS. Alright, okay, and let's play. Okay, so our platform is created. Okay, so we do not have any consecutive empty rows, row and column. Okay, so for this scenario, we do not have any consecutive empty columns, as you can see each rows, except from the top. Okay, let me clear the messages. Okay, found one consecutive empty row, and that is over here, I believe. Okay, one is alright. Okay, the scenario comes when it is 3 or more. Okay, found one as well. Okay, so one, yep, one. Alright, so one as well. Okay, so as you can see, it isn't easy to get that scenario, but we have to make sure that we cover as many scenarios as possible. Okay, so this is, let's see, okay, found two. Okay, even with two, it's alright, as you can still get to the top platforms, as you saw over here. So we are trying to get a scenario where for 3 rows there are no platforms there. Or rather, for 3 rows there are no platforms whatsoever. Okay, so this looks okay as well. So there are only 2 consecutive empty rows, so that's alright. So the key here is, what do we do when we find something with 3 consecutive empty rows? Okay, if I'm not wrong, this stage will have 2 consecutive or 1 consecutive empty rows. Alright. One meaning this row, okay, because it will not count the first 3 platforms. Okay, because the first 3 platforms are always accessible from each other. Okay, so 0. Okay, 0 is good, which means that all of the platforms are accessible from each other. Okay, but we will have to practice our jumping skills. Yep. Huh. Okay, if you look at this stage, it looks as though if you are not able to access or get to the top platform, but that's not true. You can do this from here. Okay, but it requires some amount of skill. Or you can do this from here. Which also requires jumping skill. Okay. Okay, that is possible only due to the fact that you can change directions while in mid-air. Okay, this is also good, even though there are 0. Okay, so if you look at this gap over here, it's alright because there are platforms on the left that will help you get from the bottom platforms to the top. Okay, so like I have mentioned many times before, it isn't easy to get that scenario, so even while testing, okay, when we want to get that scenario so that we can resolve it, it still requires some amount of time to do so. Okay, even this stage is totally possible for you to reach the top platforms, so it's alright as well. Okay, found 1 consecutive empty rows. Okay, this stage is also alright, as you can jump from the platforms on the left. And I have to learn how to aim. Alright. Okay, found 1 consecutive empty rows. Alright. Okay, so as you can see, if you were new to game programming, or if you are a gamer who is curious about the behind the scenes of game development, this is what happens when you have to fix bugs. Okay, imagine if you play a game and you come across a bug once, it might ruin your gameplay experience. But to fix those type of bugs, developers have to replay the game many times. Of course, many different developers have different perspectives on this, but to me personally, definitely worth it. Why? Because if by resolving this bug, you can have a better gameplay experience, and all that matters for me is to see that smile on you when you play stars. And that's why I'm going to spend time on fixing, or rather resolving these bugs. Okay, let me see whether I can jump on top of there. Okay, so it appears that I can. Okay, found 1 consecutive empty rows. So this stage is alright as well, even though there is a huge amount of space in the center. Okay, so in case you were wondering why we are suddenly at this stage of fixing some of the critical bugs, okay, that is because we are getting close to a alpha release, to end alpha release. So stay tuned and we will update you when the alpha version is coming out. Okay, let's see. How many consecutive? Okay, we found 1. Okay, but okay, this is another rare exception. That is, even though there are platforms on this row, and this row, there are none over here. So what we can do is to check for 2 platforms. It's still 1. If it's 0, we say that it's empty. Okay. How can we modify this? Okay, before we modify that, okay, let's see if we can get more rare scenarios that we have to look out for. Okay, this is another scenario that we have to look out for, where a platform is blocking the passage to another platform. Alright. So how do we... Okay, let me take a screenshot so that I can work out how to fix this or resolve this.